Welcome to my review of Road Redemption. And this was released on Xbox One, PS4, and I believe PC. I'm not sure if it was on any other platforms, but it was on most of the modern platforms. So in this game, you can start off, you can pick which bike you want, and you have several options in the beginning. You can unlock some more as you play the game. And same with the riders. You can select your riders, and they have different attributes too. Like some have more health, and some will have, they'll start with a different weapon. There's like different attributes for each rider, and some of them are quite a bit better to use. Like some riders will get you more XP, so although they have less health, you'll gain a lot more XP if you die, or just playing in general, and that lets you rack up a lot of you can rack up a lot of XP by playing with those characters. Though you may not win the campaign, but even if you fail, you can unlock a lot of permanent unlocks. So in this game, it's kind of like a rogue style, where between your matches, you can pick temporary upgrades, as you see here. Like you can upgrade your weapons and things like that, but these are temporary upgrades that you only use for your current run. So while you're trying to beat the game, you have to clear, I believe, 16 stages to beat the game. But here you're just trying to clear, the game, so you can just pick some temporary upgrades that you'll be able to keep for that run. But if at any time you die, there's not multiple lives. There is a power-up that I think will revive you once, but I never got it. It's very expensive, and it's a temporary power-up, as I said, with all these power-ups in this menu. And this menu comes up between each race or event. So, if you can earn money during the course of the races, and with that money you can buy some of these temporary upgrades to try to keep your run going. Ultimately, you want to try to beat that final stage and final boss, and that'll beat the game. But most of the time when you first start out, you're going to be restarting a lot. So you may want to use a rider that gives you more XP, just because you're probably not going to succeed right away anyway. So you might as well try to gain some permanent XP. You can cash in that XP for permanent upgrades at the end of your event. So if you fail, you'll be able to go into that menu and you can unlock some permanent upgrades that way. And the permanent ones carry over no matter what. So with those you'll be able to upgrade your character permanently, and you'll be able to carry that over, and it makes the game progressively easier each time you upgrade your character more and more. And of course, unlock other bikes and things like that too will make the game easier. But the main thing that's going to make it easier, as far as the upgrades go, is getting your character stronger overall with the permanent upgrades. Though aside from that, you're really going to want to get better with the controls and things like that, which I cover in the tutorial. And mastering the guns is huge, which is an awesome thing about this game that Road Rash didn't have. This is really a copy of the old Road Rash games, and in some ways it's better, in other ways it's worse. But one thing that I thought was a big improvement over the Road Rash games is the guns, and of course you have much smoother movement and animation than the older Road Rash games. Like the best Road Rash game to me was on 3DO and PS1, just called Road Rash, and that game, fucking awesome game. I did a tutorial on that and review. And, I still think that's quite a bit better than this. But this game does have some things going for it that are better than that game. And it has smoother animation and movement because it's a more modern game. Those games were on older hardware. So this game does have a much smoother movement and driving overall. And it adds guns into the mix and all the different upgrades and things, which makes things a lot more, interesting and enjoyable. So it definitely has some advantages. But it can also be kind of janky, where sometimes you go way off the road, and there's some of the controls can be strange sometimes. The hit detection, there's some weird issues where you kind of go flying off course sometimes, which it feels kind of cheap. It doesn't feel like, the physics don't always feel like the way that they should. You know what I mean? So sometimes the physics in the game are a little bit weird. And some of the environments can feel a little generic. I mean, they're not really they're not super exciting, areas. There's a lot going on as far as traffic and shit like that. But I don't know, the areas, they just feel a little bit generic. They don't feel too exciting. The soundtrack is kind of just some generic heavy metal type of shit, I believe. So, I mean, it doesn't really stand out in those areas. It could use a little bit extra coat of polish in the, you know, as far as the physics and maybe the soundtrack and things like that. The areas could be a little bit more interesting design. But when it comes to gameplay, you know, at the core, the gameplay is pretty fucking awesome. I mean, you have a nice variety of weapons. Certain weapons will inflict more damage on certain enemy types. So if you have a guy with a helmet, you may want to use like something like the electrical weapons. If the guy doesn't have a helmet, you can use a machete and cut his head off. So there's like some things like that. Now, I didn't get too much into that, you know, depth with the melee combat because I found weapons and styles that I liked. So for me, I kind of started to stop fucking around with melee weapons too much, and I just relied on collecting guns and, you know, ammo for my guns. Pretty much was my play style in the end. I realized that guns were so much better than anything else once you learn how to use them. Now, there was reviews that complained that the guns were too hard to use and pretty much useless. But it's definitely not the case. You just have to learn how to use them. They are tricky to use because there is no auto aim. So, you know, while you're dealing with some of the janky driving controls, you have to aim with the right analog stick manually. So you got to get used to doing that. And in my tutorial, I described some ways to get better at doing that. There are some, you know, techniques to make it more efficient. Of course, it'll take practice ultimately, but I think that's, you know, kind of the thing of a great game is that it takes a lot of fucking practice to master the mechanics, to get better at it. So to me, that's a plus. I think that's a good thing about the game. But like I said, there are some things when you play it, you'll see that there are some janky aspects to the gameplay that make it less solid than it could be. But if you loved Road Rash, you know, I think this game is going to be an easy pickup for you. You know, you're going to really be into this because Road Rash was a much harder game than this, and it had, you know, much worse frame rate, the older ones, especially the ones on Genesis. And it was much harder than this. So, you know, if you can enjoy Road Rash, you're probably really going to enjoy this. Now, of course, a lot of players are not going to be familiar with Road Rash since it's a very old game now. But, you know, definitely look into emulation and look into trying Road Rash on PS1 or 3DO or Saturn. It's even on PC, I believe. So check that game out because it's fucking awesome. It's actually quite a bit better than this, even though it's more, you know, dated visually. It's just a better game. It just plays better. But this does have some aspects, like I said, that are an improvement over that old game. But in other areas, it doesn't match up. So, you know, on the whole, it's not gonna score as high for me as you know, that Road Rash game. Though I would probably say that it's, you know, in many ways, it's probably better than the old Road Rash games on Genesis. I mean, they were so choppy. Those games had such choppy animation. I mean, even though I really, really liked Road Rash, the first one is the one I owned on Genesis, and I loved it. I played the shit out of it. But, you know, looking back at it now, you know, I think this would have the edge for sure. I think this is definitely a better game than the ones on Genesis. I would say it's probably better than those games. See, and that's, you have a rocket launcher. And I believe I may have used the rocket launcher to take all those guys out. You have a lot of different gun type of weapons. Now, there's a pretty useless one. It's a harpoon gun. I never really got used to it. I guess you could snag guys with it or some shit, but whenever I got that, I would avoid using it. I found it was like almost useless, but I'm not sure if I was using it right. There's probably a better way to use it. Now, in this video footage, you can see there's a lot of, you know, of animation freezing and shit like that. That's not in the game. It's some problem I had when I combined the videos. So, you know, the game does not have any of that. The game pretty much runs as you see, minus the, you know, the freeze frames. But yeah, in this game, you also have, you know, certain targets you can take out that are bonus targets. They have these icons above them. And some of them will give you back health. Some of them will give you, well, there'll be various bonuses. I don't remember all the bonuses, but killing them will grant you certain bonuses, and you know, you may be able to replenish more of your meter, because you have a meter where you know, for your weapons and shit, pretty much. Or what? No, I know what it is. It's the nitro. I haven't played in a few months, but yeah, the nitro meter. You can build up your nitro meter by killing guys And also by killing certain guys will give you more nitro than usual. So if they have like a nitro canister next to them, you'll kill them, you'll get more nitro back. Nitro is a big deal because it allows you to keep up with the enemies. So, it gives you that turbo boost. Now, when you do get knocked off your bike, you get back on pretty quick. So the game doesn't make you wait around like the old Road Rash games. So, I mean, that is an improvement, I think, in many ways. You can also reset the track by pausing the game and going into reset track or something. It'll put you back on the track pretty fast. It's pretty useful. I've had a few glitches where I could not continue the game and I had to basically quit because it wouldn't put me back on track. So, I mean, sometimes you can get glitched out, but it doesn't happen too often. It may have happened to me twice, something like that. So, like I said, the game is not super polished. But anyone who played the old Road Rash games will be able to get over that. So, yeah, some of the events are going to be time trials where you're pretty much just trying to race the clock and get to the end. And those are good levels to pick up more ammo and stock up more and, pick up more guns and ammo and stuff like that to stock up because you can carry over all your pickups to the next race or event. So it's good to try to stockpile certain weapons and save them for the later, more difficult events. There's a lot of strategy when it comes to trying to beat the full game since you have to beat all the stages on one life. But now there is, as I mentioned, the permanent unlocks do make the game easier. And one of the ways they do that is you can unlock a higher starting stage. So I believe you can unlock it to where you start on stage 9. You have the option to start on stage 9, which, adds 16 stages. So that's going to make it a lot easier. Though you're going to be a little bit underpowered because you're not going to have some of your temporary upgrades that you build up. But still, it would make it much easier starting on stage 9. I started on stage 6 because that's what I had unlocked. I didn't have the upgrade to unlock, stage 9 starting. I think it took me about 6 hours to beat the game. So it's definitely not an easy game. And a full run of the game probably takes... It depends what stage you start on, though. So it can vary. I think it may have taken me around 50 minutes or something like that starting from stage 6. But it could take longer if you start from stage 1. But that is the successful run. So, most of your time is going to be spent failing and having to restart the game. But like I said, you will accumulate some permanent upgrades. That's going to make things, a lot easier over time. So that's the main thing. You want to play the game patiently and focus on upgrading your character first. Don't focus too much on trying to beat the game, as soon as you start playing. So just be aware of that. You can see when you reset the track, it's pretty quick. So the game is pretty good with that. Though sometimes you get off track for weird reasons, and you just end up in the middle of nowhere. But it's not too frequent. You also have sticky bombs that you can plant on the enemies, which are extremely useful because you can blow up their friends as well when they drive up to their friends. So that can be extremely useful as well. But that's pretty much the way the game works. You have, I believe, 16 missions. You get temporary upgrades that you unlock with the cash you get on those missions. It's just temporary for that run. And then, if you lose the run, you're going to have XP that you accumulated. You can cash in that XP to buy various permanent upgrades at the end screen, after you failed an event. Or if you beat the game, you can use the XP, I believe, and carry that over to, New Game Plus runs and things. I think there's a New Game Plus, which may be a little harder. So the game does have some replay with that, it seems. I only did the main campaign. I haven't done New Game Plus yet, but I may go back to this one. It was actually a really good game overall. It's definitely one I would recommend if you like combat racing games. It's one of the better ones to be released, especially recently because these games are not really made anymore. So if you like what you see and you see potential in it, I would say, give it a try. It's probably only $20 now, and it may be cheaper by the time this review, is seen. So keep an eye on it. So I wouldn't put, even though it had the potential to be much better than the original, well, not the original, but the Road Rash on 3DO and PS1. I think it could have been a much better game than that. But it does fail in a few areas. And I think the gameplay overall was better on that 3DO PS1 release. I think the gameplay was a little tighter in certain aspects and just, had a better flow to it. But this game is definitely up there. And I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. You see right here is your permanent upgrade screen where you can unlock permanent upgrades. and those are with you no matter what. But yeah, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's quite a good game. It falls a little bit short of being, on the level of greatness of the Road Rash for 3DO, but I think it's better than the ones on Genesis. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.